Welcome to our session, 8 Reasons Attorneys Need RNs for Legal Nurse Consultant Jobs. Attorneys who litigate medical-related cases are intelligent. They're also enterprising, which is exactly why they use certified legal nurse consultants. The smartest attorneys know they need RNs for their legal nurse consultant jobs for these 8 reasons. Number 1, certified legal nurse consultants close the gap between the attorney's legal expertise and the CLNC consultant nursing expertise. Healthcare is its own language, and who knows that language better than you, an RN? No one. CLNC consultants can take the most complex case and explain it in a way that makes sense to attorney. Cheryl Garrison shares how the expertise that CLNC consultants bring to the case can change the way attorneys handle those cases. She expressed, "My attorney-client expressed appreciation in a letter which read, Cheryl, your analysis of the medical records, as well as the report that you prepared, provided insight that would not have been available to investigators trying to make sense of the voluminous and complex records involved." Cheryl further expanded that the attorney also told her that the results of her involvement were decisive in obtaining convictions on the suspects involved in a particular criminal case. And she said that this one case changed the way that DA's office handled their future criminal cases. So as you can see, that's an important reason when a nurse can actually transform how an attorney does business. CLNC consultant Dale Barnes describes how attorneys think they can review medical records independently until they're shown what they're missing. She says when they see the scope of our nursing practice and our knowledge base, most attorneys agree that their effectiveness as attorneys can be enhanced by consulting with a certified legal nurse consultant. And she gave an example about how she had discovered medical malpractice within a personal injury case. She said, "The attorney told me he didn't know how any attorney could work without a certified legal nurse consultant." And she expands, "My attorney clients express appreciation by sending me more cases and referring me to their attorney colleagues." So again, reinforcing why they need us, right? CLNC consultant Jane Hurst shares, attorneys are legal experts. They don't have the education, training, and experience to properly address medical related issues. Even attorneys who specialize in medical cases need a CLNC consultant. They may have experience with different types of injuries, illnesses, or disease. However, they don't have the background that addresses the specific issues surrounding this unique plaintiff's case. And she further expands, not using a CLNC consultant may result in important and valuable medical issues being missed. The number 2 reason that attorneys need certified legal nurse consultants is certified legal nurse consultants have insider knowledge. Insider knowledge. Think about this. The attorneys, they haven't worked in the OR, the ICU, the psych unit, the long-term care unit. CLNC consultants, they've been where these attorneys aren't even allowed to go. Your knowledge is not theoretical, it's real. You've been in the trenches as an RN, you bring experiences to the case that the attorney will never in their lifetime be able to claim. CLNC consultant Doreen Goldstein explains, attorneys need CLNC consultants to translate the medical and nursing medical records and information into terms that they can understand. She says, we bring years of clinical experience and can explain what happens in the real world of healthcare. We're not talking textbook stuff. She further says, we read between the lines in the medical record and help decode what's not documented. CLNC consultant Michelle Neal describes how CLNC consultants analyze and interpret medical records in a way that attorneys cannot. She says certified legal nurse consultants don't just review records to fill in the blanks on a case. We have insider knowledge, which allows us to negotiate the complicated medical aspects of a case and deliver our findings in a clear and concise manner. We investigate and use our critical thinking skills and nursing expertise to determine missing items, what does and does not piece together, the potential contributing factors that affect the outcome of the case, and how the alleged damages are or are not related to the medical and nursing care. CLNC consultant Laura Tucko expands on how attorneys are not able to really understand the nuances of cases. She says a medical malpractice attorney may be familiar with medical scenarios and medical jargon from representing cases and deposing witnesses and speaking with medical professionals, but the attorney lacks the healthcare experience of a CLNC consultant. The attorney doesn't see a case through a nursing lens, a lens that has lived through thousands of medical scenarios with patients. So think about yourself in that lens that you see this entire healthcare system through. There's no way the attorney can see through a similar type of lens. They just don't have that experience. She further says the experience is invaluable and it allows the CLNC consultant to bring a different and deeper perspective to a case. So we're helping that attorney to dive deeper, to dig deeper into these cases, and again, to really find the subtleties in these cases that they're representing. The number 3 reason that attorneys need you is certified legal nurse consultants are experts on the standards of care. Standards of care vary considerably from one specialty to another. CLNC consultant Rebecca Jones says, knowing the standards will support an attorney's case or identify holes in the case that the attorney may not have uncovered. So that's really our job, to help them to do that. She gave an example. She says she had consulted with an attorney representing a family who had lost a baby during a home birth experience. She says home birth guidelines for midwives are different than for midwives who practice in hospital settings. There are also different educational levels of midwives and different types of licenses. I mean, think about this. Attorneys just don't know this kind of stuff. She says these differences gave strength to the case, and the attorney was impressed with how much she learned. She's referred several attorneys to me since then. And Rebecca says she considers referral the best proof of how invaluable she can be to an attorney's case. CLNC consultant Robert Malaire describes how certified legal nurse consultants provide a level of understanding and experience that attorneys don't possess. He says we analyze voluminous and complex medical records, organize them in a way that makes sense to the attorneys, summarize all the relevant details into concise points, identify missing or incomplete records, and simplify the electronic medical records. We provide insightful and thorough explanations of the inner processes and disciplines within a medical organization. Just navigating that attorney through the healthcare system, I think, is a big part of what we do. We identify deviations from standards of care and explain how the deviations relate to the causation issues in the case. He further expands, juries can become easily confused with highly complex or technical discussions, which is where the CLNC consultant comes into play. The CLNC can explain and break down complicated concepts and can ensure that the jury understands the details of the case in layman's terms, allowing them to make a more informed decision based on the facts of the case. So when you think about this, who can best explain a case to a jury? Explaining the case to your attorney, you're ultimately explaining it to a jury in the terms they can really understand it, because the attorney then, because of you, is able to explain it in an easy way for that jury to absorb. The number 4 reason certified legal nurse consultants are not stumped by the electronic medical record. Decoding the EMR, this is a skill unique to certified legal nurse consultants. They're effective and efficient in analyzing the very complex EMR. My experience, attorneys are completely baffled by the EMR. In fact, more baffled by the EMR today than they ever were by handwritten records when I started my consulting business 36 years ago. CLNC consultant Susan Schaub addresses this fact. She says many attorneys falsely believe that they can review the EMR and have a full understanding of them. And I'm sure she says this because the EMR is easier to read. In other words, everything's legible. But it's not just the words that you read. She says it's a mistake to equate ability to read with the ability to understand. The printout from the EMR is very different from the paper chart. She said before EMRs, the discharge summary was usually the doctor's discharge note, whereas now, although there's still a discharge summary in the EMR, the computer discharge reflects more than just the doctor's note. It's reflecting an entire encounter. So there's a lot of little differences in the EMR today. Michelle Neal explains how a fraudulent documentation case with the EMR is the perfect example of why attorneys need a CLNC consultant. She says in fraudulent documentation cases, the documentation often doesn't coincide with the patient's overall condition. She says, I can use my critical thinking skills as a registered nurse and my experience to piece the records together and find the gaps. She's comparing nursing documentation, medical administration records, staff signatures, doctor's records, patient diagnoses, lab work. Basically, as she says, I play a significant role in the outcome of fraud cases. She says attorneys are always expressing gratitude for that contribution because she's finding things that nobody else on that litigation team is finding. Number 5, certified legal nurse consultants are impartial. Very important. We all know that MDs are known to be more protective of their profession than registered nurses. Perhaps that's because MDs have more to protect. Attorneys appreciate that RNs call it the way you see it, and you're generally more objective than MDs who are involved in these cases. Michelle Neal shares, certified legal nurse consultants incorporate a non-biased opinion based on the facts of the case. This makes us invaluable. Susan Schaub describes, many attorneys develop detailed medical knowledge, especially those who specialize in medical types of cases. They begin to see malpractice and evil doing in cases that have the potential for high reward or when a client has a heartbreaking story. Her job, she says, is to be the objective reviewer. And she says, I'm paid for delivering the highest level service and work product and for being objective. We're not vigilantes for injured people. We're not the protector of the healthcare provider. And she says that her strongest relationships are built and established by distinguishing those non-meritorious cases from the meritorious ones. Robert Malaire also illustrates this point. He says, attorneys report they actually hire me because I don't base my opinion on what the attorney wants me to say. In other words, it's expensive to tell an attorney what you think they want to hear because if they lose the case, that's very expensive to them. Jane Hurst emphasizes the importance of recognizing that there's usually two sides to a story and how the CLNC consultant can save the attorney money by considering both sides. She says, I came across a key piece of evidence in a case and was absolutely flabbergasted. I told the plaintiff attorney it was a good thing I had reviewed the records because if the defense had this information, my attorney might have wound up with eggs on his face. My attorney-client couldn't thank me enough for finding the information. He told me he would never work on another case without having me on his team. In other words, being impartial, again, is a very helpful trait to these attorneys. Number 6, certified legal nurse consultants read medical records that the MDs don't. We all know that while MDs are important for testifying, they simply do not read the medical records thoroughly. In fact, anytime I've polled certified legal nurse consultants and even just general registered nurses about MDs reading the record, pretty much what I hear is it's almost impossible to find an MD who's really thorough in reviewing medical records, even when they're serving in the capacity of testifying expert. And then even the MD who does review the medical records often is guilty of only assessing the MD issues in a case. Whereas I think what we do as Seal and C consultants is we're looking at all of the issues and we're helping to create order out of this chaos of this complicated medical record that involves lots of players, registered nurses, MDs, other types of ancillary disciplines. And because we're looking at the entire medical record, not just parts of it, we actually identify issues that the MD misses. Not because we necessarily know more medicine, but because, what a novel concept, we actually read the entire medical record. Denise McDowell said, I discovered an important consulting MD's note in the EMR printout that was buried at the bottom of a page. When the attorney received my report, he immediately called me and said, you have no idea how many people looked at this medical record, including a vascular surgeon, yet no one saw what you discovered. You've already earned your fee. Lisa also tells us, my attorney client was impressed with my work and completely upset that his MD had not noticed the discrepancies I observed. She said, I've received many more cases from this attorney and he no longer uses that MD. We read the entire medical record. Marcia Bell adds, I was asked to review a case previously reviewed by a surgeon and an anesthesiologist. The patient had taken a downward turn in the PACU and had a poor outcome. She said, I had identified the nurse's failure to follow the standards of care and failing to follow the doctor's orders. In fact, the nurse administered a narcotic when the patient was in respiratory distress, further depressing respiratory status, and the nurse had not followed any of the anesthesia orders that had been written. She gave excess IV fluids in a dialysis patient, and she did not notify the MD of a low oxygen saturation. She said that when she called the attorney-client, he said, you've made this case for me, and then he sent Marcia 3 more cases immediately after that. Number 7, certified legal nurse consultants find the nuggets that increase the value of the case. Kay Miller tells us, approximately 2 weeks after meeting with an attorney-client on a slip and fall workers' compensation case, it settled for $490,000. The settlement covered every medical, rehabilitation, physician, and prescription bill. The attorney said it was unusual to get such a high settlement for a workers' compensation case, and that my invaluable information played a large role in the outcome. So finding those nuggets. Jane Hurst tells us, I've discovered invaluable information from my attorney clients quite a few times. In a plaintiff case, I located information that was pivotal to a very large settlement. My attorney client always has me review the defense expert CV to identify articles, textbook chapters, and/or presentations related to the case. In doing research, I discovered a video of the defense expert discussing his case with clinical trials that were used by the pharmaceutical company to get a well-known drug approved by the FDA. The drug was subsequently removed from the market, implicated in a number of patient deaths, and resulted in massive litigation. Jane said, needless to say, the video gave my attorney client a lot of leverage and would ruin the defense expert's credibility. My attorney was prepared to use the video at trial. However, when the opposing counsel saw it, she stopped the trial and settled the case for a high dollar figure. The attorney was extremely appreciative and always tells me that I'm an important part of the team. She says, I love being able to be actively involved, especially considering I live 10 hours away from his law firm. So making that difference. Number 8, certified legal nurse consultants have access to thousands of experts and subcontractors. through the National Alliance of Certified Legal Nurse Consultants. Having these experts and subcontractors at your fingertips, this is an asset that attorneys recognize. It means that you can actually help attorneys with pretty much any type of case. And this is something we talk about, how to subcontract and how to work with subcontractors in the CLNC certification program. And another benefit is that MD experts are often more responsive to requests to testify by someone like yourself, a CLNC consultant, than from an attorney. As an example, Becky Mungai says, I'm able to secure top medical experts. My attorney client had previously contacted an expert who said he was too busy. When I contacted the same expert, he said, as long as you've determined it's a meritorious case, I'll review it. In other words, he trusted Becky. She said this was not the first time that an expert had agreed to take on a case for me when they had said no to the attorney. So in summary, certified legal nurse consultants perform 30 services, from analyzing the EMR to assisting attorneys with discovery to screening cases, writing reports. Attorneys need RNs for their legal nurse consultant jobs because, number one, certified legal nurse consultants close that gap between that attorney's experience and your experience as a CLNC. Second, certified legal nurse consultants have insider knowledge. Third, CLNC consultants are experts on the standards of care. 4, certified legal nurse consultants are not stumped by the EMR in the way that attorneys are. 5, CLNC consultants are impartial. 6, certified legal nurse consultants read medical records that the MDs do not. 7, certified legal nurse consultants find those nuggets that increase the value of the case. And 8, certified legal nurse consultants have access to thousands of experts and subcontractors. As CLNC consultant Michelle Neal says, CLNC consultants are hidden treasures to attorneys. Attorneys shine when it comes to the law, and certified legal nurse consultants only make that light shine brighter. Thank you for joining me in this session today.